Thank you very much, and greetings to the people of South Africa. My name is Sinao Tambo. I'm the EFF National Spokesperson, and we welcome all of you to the press conference of the EFF, which will be addressed by the Commander-in-Chief, Julius Malema. So we'll begin with the introductions of the leadership. I'll start with my far left. We have the Treasurer General of the EFF, Commissar Mpile Mautwe. Immediately next to her, on her right, is the National Chairperson of the EFF, Commissar Veronica Mente. On my far right is the Deputy Secretary General of the EFF, Commissar Popi Mailula. And immediately next to her, on her left, is the Secretary General of the EFF, Commissar Marshall Dlamini. On my immediate left is the Deputy President of the EFF, Commissar Floyd Shivambu, and on my right is the President and Commander-in-Chief of the EFF, who will be taking us through the press briefing today. Over to you, President.
Thank you very much, members of the media, the leadership of the EFF, officials who are here representing our organization, the people of South Africa, Africa and the diaspora. The economic freedom fighters is pleased that the national shutdown, which was held on the 20th of March, 2023, was an overwhelming success and registered the demands for a stable supply of electricity and the resignation of Cyril Ramaphosa across the country, the continent, and the world. The national shutdown, which arose as a result of the continued misgovernance in South Africa, high levels of unemployment, crime, gender-based violence, and lack of service delivery, was a success, as it saw activists come out all across South Africa and register their dissatisfaction with the conditions confronting them. As intended, the people who bear the brunt of the failures of the Cyril Ramaphosa's government heeded the call, and as a result, taxi ranks, train stations, and shopping centers were all ghost towns. Taxis, buses were empty on the 20th of March all over South Africa, while load shedding was ultimately suspended due to a low level of demand for electricity supply. The low level demand for electricity was only possible due to the operations of major industries and businesses being suspended as a result of the national shutdown. It was not business as usual, as the South African National Defence Force and the South African Police Services were deployed in their numbers because the government knew that the national shutdown was a just cause, and they resorted to deploying the armed forces to suppress legitimate and peaceful protest. The EFF salutes all activists from all political parties, unions, and civil society who expressed their frustrations with the regime of the day peacefully and with the highest level of discipline. We particularly extend our gratitude to the South African Federation of Trade Unions, SAFTU, the African Transformation Movement, ATM, the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania, PAC, the United Democratic Movement, UDM, the Land Party, the African Radical Economic Transformation Alliance, ARETA, and all progressive forces that supported the national shutdown. We want to also assure all the forces of progressive change that the EFF will always fight side by side with you and will never forget your contribution even when we take political power from 2024 onwards. The excessive fear-mongering by the state and media, which sought to distort the national shutdown into an activity of violence and chaos, was proven wrong, and the core purpose and message of the protest was delivered. The EFF condemns the senseless and wasteful deployment of the South African National Defence Force, which will cost the taxpayer over 166 million up until the 17th of April 2023. The state deployed the armed forces purely for the purpose of intimidation, and they did not succeed in their attempts. But this must concern South Africans who have an interest in a free democracy characterized by accountability. The deployment of the military against opposition is a hallmark of dictatorship, and is a sign of things to come as the ruling party edges closer to losing political power in South Africa. Thankfully, the deployment of the army and the police to suppress political dissent was a complete failure and embarrassing because the people of South Africa refused to be intimidated. We further condemn the raids conducted by the police on the homes of activists ahead of the national shutdown, particularly the raid of the home of the EFF Gauteng Provincial Secretary Mushekoma in Soweto. The ruling party has resorted to utilizing apartheid tactics of isolating individuals and attacking their family homes in an attempt to discourage them for standing up for their rights. It is ironic that members of the ruling party who had their homes raided by the apartheid government are today the ones who are using the tactics of persecution against those who oppose them. We commend the fearlessness of all activists and ordinary citizens who came out in their numbers despite these numerous forms of intimidation and even illegal arrests. Many activists and disturbingly many young women were arrested without just cause in an attempt to strike fear into the hearts of South Africans. Of those who were arrested is EFF Central Command Team member and Member of Parliament Yolisa Yako, who was arrested simply for walking. The EFF has ensured that a majority of all those who were arrested on the day of national shutdown are released. We are inspired by the high spirits of all fighters who were held in police cells after we ensured their release and their determination to continue to call for the fall of Cyril Ramaphosa. The enthusiasm is encouraging and proves to us that no one can intimidate committed revolutionaries. The EFF condemns the illegal instructions which came from the fronting Minister of Transport, Lydia Chikunga, who threatened bus companies with termination of contracts if they provide transport for the national shutdown. The EFF will lodge a complaint against the fronting Minister of Transport with the Office of the Public Protector as her actions constituted an abuse of her power as a minister to serve a personal and partisan agenda. All of these attempts by the state to suppress the national shutdown failed dismally. Their efforts, which included massive deployment of law enforcement and the military, disinformation tactics and narrative manipulation by cabinet ministers and the president himself, all failed. Ordinary citizens and businesses all registered a motion of no confidence in Cyril Ramaphosa, who encouraged business to open and people to proceed like it will be a normal day, and no one listened to him. The assurance of the President of South Africa that it will be business as usual were ignored by the people of South Africa, confirming that he lacks the legitimacy to lead our nation. The national shutdown was already a success the moment a majority of businesses refused to open their doors despite Ramaphosa's promises of a normal day. The success of the shutdown was further enriched by the fact that on top of the closure of business, our people took to the streets to demand the resignation of Ramaphosa. The state-sponsored narrative of business as usual collapsed, and central to this is the arrogancy of the incumbency. The ruling party is so detached from the realities and frustrations of our people that they began to believe their own rhetoric and propaganda. They were humbled by businesses and ordinary people who showed them that nothing will be normal on the 20th of March 2023. Trucks and trains, which are central to the transportation of goods and minerals in our country, did not move. The ports of South Africa, particularly in Richards Bay in KwaZulu-Natal, did not operate. The busiest airports and municipal roads and national roads were abnormally empty on the day of the national shutdown, proving its success. The state itself contradicted its own narrative of a normal day because they deployed a massive contingent of military and police on the 20th of March 2023, spending millions trying to combat the national shutdown. South Africans saw the highest level of police visibility on that day, proving that it was not a normal day. The road to the removal of Cyril Ramaphosa as a president of South Africa has begun and will continue with sporadic protests in demand of his resignation. The EFF will pursue this and through legislative means, the courts and on the picket lines. Ramaphosa is corrupt, violent and grossly incompetent, and his continued presidency will descend South Africa into dictatorship and collapse. He must resign, and he must resign now. The EFF takes this opportunity to wish all Muslims a blessed and peaceful Ramadan. May this holy month be characterized by the core values inherent in Islam, such as compassion, mutual respect, and humility. As our nation struggles with the pain of poverty, corruption, and inequality, may this be a month of generosity and kindness towards all. I thank you.
Thank you very much, President. So we will take the first round of hands from members of the media who have questions to pose with regards to the press briefing of the EFF. I'll start on this side. You'll be number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Let's proceed like that. Number 1.
Good day, everyone and colleagues. Mr. Malema, as it relates to what you term the wasteful deployment of the SANDF, what is the EFF going to do in this regard to hold the government of the day accountable in this regard? 2, Mr. Ndlandlalax of Dudula or Soweto Parliament, whatever institution it belongs to, on the day in the morning caused drama alleging that he was attacked and insinuating that the attack was instigated by EFF members since he had made his intentions known that he was going to oppose the national shutdown. How does the EFF react to those allegations by Mr. Ndlandlalax? And then maybe lastly, with the intention of the shutdown having been to call for the resignation of the president, the ending of the load shedding, which is back now, high cost of living, which persists, what is to be done in the immediate going forward to sustain whatever issues that you sought to brought to public light, which persist, as I say, barely 3 days later after the shutdown, but these issues are still very much on the table. What is it that the EFF is going to do in the immediate and in the long term in terms of making sure that these issues don't disappear from the national discourse? And maybe lastly, Mr. Malema, what do you have to say about those who are critical of the tit for tat between yourself and the SGO of the governing party, Fikile Mbalula, saying that this is, the lowest of lows in terms of what people ought to see as qualitative content in politics of our country? Do you agree with that or do you disagree? And if you disagree, why? Thank you.
Number 2.
Mr. Malema Katlao Sokoto from Kaya FM. Just one question. Yesterday, the SG of the ANC made the accusation that the EFF shutdown had initially, he says that it was, they had prepared for violence because that was the message by the EFF, that it was not meant to be peaceful, and then accusing the party of saying then it had to turn peaceful afterwards. So he cited the arrest of the Wits or some students on the Sunday evening, saying that initially the message from the EFF was that it was meant to be violent, but then your story turned and then it became a peaceful protest. Just your response to his sentiments.
Number 3.
Tumalo Mutlaudi from Newsroom Africa. Mr. Malema, just to follow up on the question regarding the fact that the load shedding was suspended on the day of the national shutdown. How would you cast that in terms of the strategic purpose of suspending the load shedding? Would you say that load shedding is being used as a tool, as a political tool, because it can be suspended for one day, or how would you cast that? Thank you.
Number 4.
Good day, it's Natasha Puri here from SABC News. Mr. Malema, you mentioned the issue of Moshe Koma, his house being raided. Can the EFF perhaps tell us if you're thinking of taking legal action against the police? Also, there's an incident in Mpumalanga. Can you just please clarify it for me, where apparently EFF members were beaten, assaulted and shambocked by ANC members? Has a case been opened so far in that regard? Furthermore, just a reaction of what happened yesterday in Parliament, the motion of no confidence against the National Assembly Speaker, Mama Pisa Ngakula, failing. Please comment on that. And then just the last question, Mesof had asked that I ask for your reaction on the ICC issuing a warrant of arrest against President Vladimir Putin. Thank you.
Thank you, President.
Thank you very much. Well, you will know that we are in Parliament, and we will be questioning the rationality and the deployment of soldiers and the amount of monies that are going to be spent on the soldiers that are on the streets now. The national shutdown, from its beginning, it was declared to be 1 day. And as to a month deployment, I don't understand what informs that. But dealing with the criminals that we're dealing with, that might be an opportunity for them to loot. Because in the army, ordinarily, and in many instances, we never get to the bottom of how monies get to be spent in the army. And that's where it is very easy for a corrupt government to just exploit that opportunity and steal the money. Because we don't want to undermine the integrity of the armed forces, especially of our own country, because once you start making unnecessary demands, at times you are even tampering with their intelligence operations and all of that. But it is for South Africa to see for themselves that we have no precedent at all. We have no crime intelligence. We have no state security. We have no army intelligence, because someone should have said to them, stop being jokes and focus on what you are doing, because there is no such a thing. Guys, we started together when we were announcing the national shutdown. We announced it through you. Not once have we ever spoken about violence. Not once. The violence never started after the beating of kids in Hillbrow. I'm happy that he mentioned that, because the intention of Hillbrow was to intimidate whoever is going to participate the following day. So they wanted to demonstrate a night before the state heavy-handedness on the protesters and threaten anyone. So, kit ntwela hore wa bona hore ba dileng ka bana bana o ka ba wa ya wena ba tla o bontsha hore ba tla o dieng. That's what they were trying to do, and they failed dismally because with the intimidation that they tried to make through the arrest of the kids in Hillbrow a night before didn't produce any results. If anything, we went to release those kids immediately. So now, if you say you are stopping violence by beating up the girls, which violence was the girls were committing? Which one? Because those kids were marching on the pavement. That's how they mobilized the student command at VEDS, at UJ. When they do mobilization in Bramfontein, they move from apartments to apartment, from this building to this building, stop outside, start singing. Those ones get out to join them, they go to the next one. That's what they were doing. Not during the day, not at the peak hour. They did not tamper with anyone. They just went about mobilizing for people to join the legal action on the 20th. So the action that they were mobilizing for was legal. They didn't do anything illegal. And then you arrest them. Why? Because you want to use them to intimidate the whole country and show them that that you can actually use force against peaceful protesters. That was supposed to be something that all of South Africa should have condemned. That you cannot use violence. It doesn't matter whether you like what these people are saying or not, as long as they are not burning public property, they are not engaged in any form of disturbance or anything of that sort. Why do you beat them up? One of the police officers there, which a judge refused to accept, by the way, in court, that evidence, that there was a police officer who was saying, shoot the window, shoot the window. That, in a way, that place where they were shooting the window, it's a residential area. What if that rubber bullet finds a 4-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old in that window that they say they must shoot? Those who are trained to use firearms know that for as long as you don't know what is beyond this point, you can't shoot. But the apartheid, bloody, thirsty policemen, when they say to him, shoot that window, shoot, without knowing what is behind that window, he shoots. We are trained not to shoot if we don't know what goes beyond what our eyes can see. Because you might hit ordinary people. What if you hit a pregnant woman? Because some fool around who's excited by the sounds of firearms says shoot, 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 and you take an illegal instruction, you shoot. So it was an act of intimidation against, was it not on the same day or in line with that court order of the DA? You know, when you deal with illiterates, they find it very difficult to follow logic. After the court of DA in Johannesburg, 5 o'clock, we're instructed, but court said by 5 o'clock we must issue the statement that says the march is going to be peaceful and that there will not be blockade of roads and that there will not be destruction of public property. 5 o'clock, we issued that statement. So when an illiterate says to you, we started talking peace after the guns, and no one challenges him to say, but it's not true. There was a court order that instructed them to issue the statement they did. Before that, Malema spoke in Soweto to EFF branches. He spoke peace. There was no gun. Throughout its mobilization, we said peace must be the language. Why? We don't want you to concentrate on the looting. We don't want you to concentrate on destruction of property. We want the message to remain clear. And that's why we are in this press conference today. No one can divert from the issues and ask us about the side issues because there are no side issues. The message remains to date. So why would you question the success? What was the objective? The objective has always been to get the message across. And we did that. And we did that successfully without any destruction of property, without harming anyone as the leadership of the EFF. I mean, this thing that you are asking us about, the house that was burned, where the neighbors, bombed, where the neighbors had something, quack, 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 boom, the house fell. You want to reduce us to Netflix now? We don't make movies. We're engaged in real struggle, not gwa, 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 gwa. So, please, we are not part of that mess. If a person says to you as journalists, my entire family is dead, and then you go there, it's a very concerning thing. It comes out, it's a lie. Why would you still take anything from that person? Why would you do that? Such a serious statement of my entire family is dead. And then you still want to ask us about the same person? Anything that comes from that mouth has a potential of being a lie. I'm going to arrest Malema. It's a lie. My entire family is dead. It's a lie. It's a lie. So what must we do? It is the journalists themselves who should be saying, this is not worth our attention, really. And leave it as it is. Once a person says, my family is bombed, you don't even have to report about me. Immediately send a field reporter, go to Malema's house, check what's happening. Now we're here at Malema's house as he has tweeted that the house has been bombed. And we find out that there's nothing that was bombed. Because every layman will know that if you want to damage a window, those glasses of the window, they are going to fall the opposite of where the pressure came from. So if you hit a window from outside, the glasses must fall inside the house. Where you went, you found the glasses outside. So meaning came from inside. And ogarba chana yena le gogo gare ke WhatsApp group. Ke WhatsApp group e one ka re gogo le yena una le tori chae. Ja rona lo ke kwetsa ka ra mekoti ana kwa ayo claim the insurance. So garba takane ka utshwana so. So lo ja mkhuto we, it's not things that you should actually even be bothering the nation about. The nation has got serious issues to deal with. What is to be done? The struggle continues. Like I said, this is the beginning. You know us. Once we start, we don't go back. And I'm not worried about anyone who says anything because many of them come late to the party, but they eventually come. Remember when we started with the President Zuma's issue? The ANC was nowhere to be found, especially this one who's singing for Sapa, didn't want to hear anything, right? But at the ultimate end, DP will tell you, Paul Mashatile went to him in Parliament and say, withdraw the motion of no confidence so that the ANC can put its own motion of no confidence. We said, no, you're going to vote for our motion of no confidence. He proceeded, Paul Mashatile, to go to the press conference and says, we have instructed our members to go in there and vote for the EFF's motion of no confidence. Even at that time, it started like this. Eventually, the ANC came to the party. The ANC will come to the party like the rest of South Africans. You take time to warm up, Shem. But we are very patient. We know that we are an advanced detachment of society. So now, load shedding. 3 days towards the shutdown, it was used to demobilize people. That's why they didn't take it away. It was used to demobilize people. Imagine if we're at load shedding stage 6 and there's a protest outside about load shedding. Apart from wanting to join it because you are conscious about it, but the fact that you are bored, you're going to have to sit for so many hours without electricity, you'll automatically join. They used that and then said, no, we can't. Whatever you do, please make sure the lights are on. And I said to Dr. Mbwiseni, I was praying, I said to him, I pray that they don't respond to this pressure by keeping the lights on beyond the capacity of the grid, because they are under pressure and it collapses the grid. Because they were so desperate to keep the lights on to a point that they had potential to collapse the grid. Whatever it takes, let's do it. It doesn't matter, the lights can be off. So it was used as a method to demobilize, which now comes to the point that it is possible to keep the lights on. Someone doesn't want, and the EFF has proved that. 3 days before, look at the results of the EFF. You're saying, where to from here? You are supposed to thank us first. That in so many months and months, for the first time, on the day of shutdown, you had so much electricity. No load shedding. Thanks to the EFF, immediate delivery, not after the march. During the march, we delivered the demands immediately. Why? the big users of electricity decided to close. So I responded to the violence. All comrades who were beaten up, we encourage them to open cases. That's what we said. They need to open cases. The policemen who harassed those kids in at vets, one of them is captured nicely in a video. We need to pursue that one and to teach police that no matter how angry you are, you will never be a combat. You will always be a service. And that's why we are taking Mukwanazi's comments to the constitutional court to be declared unconstitutional. Mukwanazi has got no option to say today we are a service, tomorrow we are a combat. No. Coming from the mouth of such a powerful man who says today we are a combat and citizens will forgive us because we are putting aside the service. Police have got no such luxury. They should know that under whatever circumstances, they remain service to our people. The police we worked with in Pretoria, where I was, they were always like, Mr. Ndozi, what do you need now? Which road do you want us to take? Not, no, you can't go there. You go there. No. Always very cooperative. To a point where I even started playing with them. When they turn, go left, go that way, I decide, let's go straight against where the police are going. They will run, come the other way to rejoin the march and not be angry and say, no, what are you doing? No, they knew it was a peaceful protest. We have a responsibility to protect it, and we have an equal responsibility to protect the public and all of that. Mukwanazi acted in a childish manner. You know why? Because the EFF has been saying Mukwanazi must be the national commissioner. So for sure, he thinks that they think he's part of the EFF. So in a way, he's trying to prove to them that I'm not EFF. And then he does childish things. With, a desperation of a career policeman. Have you ever met a policeman? Every day you meet a career policeman, ordinary one. Just tell me what you talk about. Promotion. That's what they say all the time. There's no policeman you can speak to and doesn't talk about promotion. Man, I've been a warrant officer for 15 years. Can't a plan be made? Mukwanazi wants a promotion, which he deserves as a career policeman who can combat crime in South Africa. But he descends into political utterances that he knows nothing about. He's a political illiterate, and he must stick to being a career policeman. That is his character. And that's what he must do. Let him be a policeman and leave politics to politicians. Now to want to try sound smart because you've got a commissioner who can send an email. You're trying to show people that you are better than Masemuel by attacking the EFF in an unconstitutional manner. It will destroy him, trying to please the people who don't like him, by the way. In all what he did in KZN was to try and please the people who don't like him and trying to show them that I'm not part of the EFF. They always talk about me. Childish response. And he will regret it because we're going to get those utterances declared unconstitutional. They are a threat, serious threat, coming from a man in his position. Motion of no confidence again exposed the ANC's attitudes towards accountability. We didn't expect anything less. What we do as a small opposition with how many members, 44 in parliament, is to expose the hypocrisy of the ANC and the hypocrisy of the official opposition. That can allow members of parliament to be removed from parliament by armed policemen. Guns must be prohibited in parliament, in the National Assembly. Because what if that policeman get triggered by someone he has been seeing on TV and this person has been irritating him for too long, and then that's an opportunity to shoot? You bring guns inside Parliament officially. It is something that must never be done. So to say no, the Speaker should have done the following in order for us to arrive at a motion of no confidence, it's wrong. There are certain things that are called cardinal mistakes. She made a horrible, terrible decision that day, which exposed her that she's not a good speaker. ICC, Putin is welcomed here, and no one is going to arrest Putin. If needs be, we'll go and fetch Putin from the airport to his meeting. He will finish all his meetings, we'll take him back to the airport. We're not going to be told by these hypocrites of the International Criminal Court who know the real violators of human rights, who know the murderers of this world. That former Prime Minister of Tony Blair admitted that they made a horrible mistake when it comes to Saddam Hussein. They've not been charged today. Bush is still there. They've not been charged till to date. And then Obama killed Gaddafi. And then nothing has happened. We're here today with Libya being destroyed and unable to recover because of America. We know very well that where NATO gets involved, those are terrorists. We know very well where the US says we're going in to install peace, that place will never know peace as long as America has visited that place. So we don't want ICC's hypocrisy to apply here in our country. President Putin is welcomed. We know our friends. We know the people who liberated us. We know the people who supported us. In Kutokonaval, the weapons that were used in Kutokonaval that led to the liberation of South Africa were coming from Russia. Russia supplied us with weapons in Kutokonaval. Cuba supplied us with soldiers. MK was drunk. Cuba brought the soldiers. Russia brought the armaments. We were supposed to be the ones that are being complimented and supported by these other countries who were found wanting. But let me ask a question, and this is to all South Africans. On a hindsight, which mass campaign of the ANC was ever successful from its formation? Which one? Which mass, in history, I'm asking you about history. Let's take Sharpeville. That's not ANC, we all know that. Let's take 1976. The ANC actually issued a statement condemning the children of 1976, only later to hijack the victories of 1976. Where was the ANC when they were calling to run South Africa ungovernable and uncontrollable? There was no ANC in this country in the 80s when the youth took over the streets. There was no ANC. Which mass campaign of the ANC was successful? They came and did a mass campaign on HIV and AIDS. That was one of their mass campaigns. A lot of people died because their campaign was not successful. Which mass campaign? So what Mbalula is doing is what his predecessors did, to always condemn mass actions. And they're not starting now. They're not starting now. They've always been always following activities, but they were very good with propaganda. Someone must go to the papers of Solomon Mahlangu's court They are there. Someone must go there. And go and tell us where Solomon Mahlangu says, my blood will nourish the tree that will bear the fruits of freedom. Tell my people that I love them, they must continue with the struggle. In the, but he said it there in the court. In the court papers, there. That's what the ANC told us. Yeah. Go and show us that. There was a guy there in the ANC, still very good, but he's no longer active, called Peter Maibuye, Joel Nechtens. Those guys had a department called DIP. Its role was to do those things. Propaganda, they were very good at that. That's why everything else, if you're to tell someone that 1976 is not ANC, is going to be shocked, what are you talking about? What are you saying? Because people just automatically assume 1976 is ANC. It's not. It's not. So it has got no history of mass protest. Why was O.R. Tambo staying in Britain after the British government declared ANC a terrorist organization? If indeed it was an organization that constituted a threat to the white establishment. Okay, let's bring it closer to history. Can you imagine that terrorist that America killed, Osama bin Laden? His organization being declared a terrorist organization, and then he stays in Washington. How do you reconcile the two? That the British government says the ANC, it's a terrorist organization. Its president and his family and children stay in London, and they go to schools in London. Children of Osama bin Laden going to school in Washington. How do you reconcile that? So we shouldn't be told nonsense by people who know nothing about mass mobilization. They don't have a history of mass mobilization, and that's why he doesn't know what he's talking about. I have nothing against Mbalula. All I did to him was, it's the EFF that declared shutdown. It's not the Malema family. And you guys, fairly so, you go to him and say, the EFF has declared shutdown. What do you think? Yeah, that Malema can go. No journalist said Malema has declared shutdown. So when you talk about this issue degenerating and all of that, if you want to get it right, go to the real cause. The Secretary General of the ANC demonstrated the lowest level the ANC has ever been. The lowest level where the ANC has never been at this lowest level, both in thinking and in character. There's nothing comparable, for instance, between Mbalula and Joel Nechtens. I just gave you an example of the best the ANC has ever produced. We don't agree with Joel on issues, but you can't take it away that he's a thinker. We don't agree with his politics. Now, the Secretary General of the ANC is the highest level of the degeneration of the ANC. It can no longer be beyond this. This is the last level. Where have you ever seen Kgalema Motlanthe doing that? One of the people who occupied that position. You know, when Kgalema Motlanthe spoke after the NEC, some of us were not married. Half the time after activities of the organization during the day, at night were at social places. And then someone says the SG is speaking later today at 7 or now. The SG is speaking now, and we're busy dancing, and all of the music will be shut down to listen to the Secretary General of the ANC. The Secretary General of the ANC spoke when it mattered. Not this thing of speaking every time you go to toilet, when you come back constipated, you want to say something. No. That is demonstration of the degeneration the ANC has ever experienced. From that night, from that evening, till today, till to date, he's still tweeting and talking about the EFF national shutdown, the Secretary General of the ANC. Why? Because there are no longer veterans there who can say to him, but iyakela into yakho. Ima Mbalula, Ima. No one, no, there's no longer anyone. Ramaphosa is excited because he thinks it's his personal defense, but he doesn't see that this is actually destroying the office of Secretary General, who wants to create some non-existing beef. Because Mbalula was told, he listened to that nonsense, and I told him, when he called me, I said, you listened to that nonsense that Malema has made his match, and you're taking it literally. Literally, I know how to poke them. I poke them deliberately, and I know how they're going to react. Mbalula West, you know, just snap. After the shutdown, someone sent me a picture of me with the EFF logo, and then I put it there. I wrote Action Killer Man. Go and see what he put today. A picture of himself. When I tell you I've got them by here, you think I'm playing. He went to take a picture of himself, did exactly what I did. So he took that thing literally, and he can't think. And he even says to me, yeah, when you attack the ANC, you are attacking me. I'm the ANC. You are not the ANC. You are nothing. Who are you? I have no problem with Mbalula attack the EFF. You can't hear me intervening. The EFF has got capable young men and women who will put him at his place. But why are you coming for me? And you coming for me because of your proximity to me, and you think that they will use you to destroy me. I have no time for ANC people. They don't like me. Even himself doesn't like me. He's envious of me. So why should I be worried about them? He envies me. They do that, all of them. So especially the ones I grew up with in the youth league, they envy me. And if they get an opportunity, they will kill me. Because the problem with envy is that this guy has now led a shutdown. How do I lead a shutdown? Then you are unable to meet these things that you are competing with this guy about, and it becomes something else. So he is not having any agenda, none whatsoever. He's just going crazy because they said to him, Malema has made his match. I'm not scared of Mbalula. He has never done anything for me. I don't need anything from him. I am where I am because of my own commitment to the revolution. I'm not Mbalula's child, and he will never intimidate me. I won't be intimidated by Mbalula. They tried many presidents, not even secretary generals of the ANC, many. He's a clown that knows very well can't do anything, and he must stop pushing me. He wants to come personal, I will be extremely personal. Then he will talk about degeneration. I have a huge respect for his family, and a huge respect for his wife, a dignified woman. To an extent that if I attack his family, it means I'll be attacking that woman. He's got children who are now older, who hear these things. Why should we be personal with wives and children who are older, who can follow this thing and get hurt personally by such things? We shouldn't. We shouldn't, but he must not push me. I'm not a push around. I can come just once on him, it will be done. And I don't want to do that. So he must keep my family name out of his mouth. That's all I'm asking for. The rest of the politics, I'm okay with them. I don't care. I have no problem. I just want briefly, no, in a very brief way, all of us ought to ask ourselves, DP, what is a shutdown? In an English definition manner, what is a shutdown? Amongst other things, it means temporary suspension of operations or business. Have you not experienced that? If you have experienced that, there was a shutdown. That's it. Yes, sir. Well done.
No, second round. Thank you very much, President. We'll take the second and last round of hands to interact with the President and Commander-in-Chief in the EFF press conference. We'll start on this side now. You'll be number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and you'll be number 5. Thank you very much. Let's go number 1.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. President, just first question. We've seen concentration of power in
Name,
the
surname,
presidency.
media house.
Sorry, apologies. My name is Puti Musumana from Inside Politics. We have seen concentration of power in this presidency over time, and we know there's no portfolio committee to keep account of what is going on in the presidency. Should we be worried about this, and is the EFF going to do something about it? We have heard the story of how the presidency wanted to use consultants, apparently to be funded by private sector interest. Your comment on that. The second one, DP, we have started a war on a system, someone said. Are you prepared for what is coming? We've heard the story of the transport ministry and the buses. Soon enough, we'll see more. Bank accounts being flagged and much more. Is the EFF and the leadership prepared? And are there anything that you have already spotted? The last question is this the end of Palapala? Is there a program from the EFF that we're likely going to see in Concord? Are you planning other things to fight on this case? Thank you very much.
Number 2.
Yes, Siyabonga Sithole from the Star. I just want to ask one question. In terms of the assessment of the EFF, in terms of the number of people who took part actively across the country in the protests on Monday, what would be the assessment of the EFF in terms of numbers? Because people are looking at the only one in Pretoria and say maybe the numbers were low, but or in totality, how many people do you think took part in the march? Thanks.
Number 3.
Kosinathi Shazi from Power FM News. Mr. Malema, with you describing the shutdown as a success, how does the EFF use the success of the shutdown to their advantage ahead of the national elections? The party has made massive strides since its inception 10 years ago. You're the 3rd biggest party. South Africans are looking for change. And as much as you are seen as a necessary evil in the party, a number of South Africans, especially on social media, have identified themselves in the cause and the actions of the EFF. So my question is, how do you take the success of the shutdown and use it to your advantage with the elections just months away? Thank you very much.
Number 4.
Mr. Malema Katleo Sokoto again from Kaya FM. On the day of the shutdown, we visited some areas in Tembisa. There were a number of street vendors who had lost some of their goods, and some businesses were negatively affected. Just your response on, as the shutdown that you were saying, businesses were not really supposed to operate. Those who did decide to open and were negatively affected, what's your response to those people?
Thank you very much, Mr. Malema. My name is Lunga. I'm from the Citizen newspaper. We've been hearing political commentators saying that there's a possibility that you can work with Paul Mashatile and become deputy president of the country. I just want you to maybe just put that to bed. Would you be able to work with the ANC, especially Paul Mashatile, next year if you guys do go in a coalition?
Thank you very much, President.
Thank you very much. The concentration of too much power in the presidency, it's a sign of dictatorship. A dictator who can't trust anyone with discharging government responsibilities, and as a result, he wants to run everything himself. And that's why that office is too big now to a point where we are even unable to track some of the things. So we have written to the Speaker of Parliament to establish portfolio committee on the President. And matters have also been taken to the Rules Committee, as it were, because we believe that if, for instance, tomorrow he wants to steal the money from water department, he might come and say there is a problem of water in South Africa and I want to run it, I want it close to me, bring it to the of my office. So it's now water department in the presidency, and then it's being shielded from that accountability. And I do not appreciate why both black and white were not alarmed by that. That so many departments get put under one office which has got no oversight committee on it. And the president is not prepared to budge on the oversight, which confirms that that thing he was saying is the most transparent president who's available to take accountability, has never allowed Parliament to hold him accountable. The panel said he must be held accountable. He refused. Yesterday, we said, let's do the ad hoc committee to hold him accountable. He refused. Now his office has got no oversight committee. The man is a law unto himself. And the sooner we realize, the better for our country. You mentioning Minister of Transport. That Minister of Transport was single-handedly picked by Minister Mbalula. He had two options on that minister. He had Zizi Godwa and he had this current minister, because he wanted someone he can control. And they picked this one. It is how he operates, Mbalula. When the letter came at 2 a.m., I knew it's him. Mbalula used to call us at night when we're trying to resolve issues in conferences with one phone call. Disrupt the conference on the phone. Mbalula used to call. When the letter came at 1, I knew it's Mbalula. And I told him, I said, I knew it's you who said to this comrade, stop those buses. If they know who's giving subsidies here and a child, what do you call it? Scholar transport. If they know who's giving those tenders, they must stop those things. Stop it. They didn't care whether it was constitutional or not. A legal party that has announced its program 2 months before, does nothing underground, operates above the law. The state says it must not be given buses. Through the Secretary General of the party, who's no longer in government, by the way, but still controls Department of Transport through this puppet minister. He wanted Zizi or this one, and perhaps the president became more comfortable with this one. And that's why he still wanted to have control. There's still going to be a huge mess in that department. And if this comrade doesn't agree to what Mbalula says, we'll observe it in between. She's likely not to come. And Zigzi is likely to be a minister of transport. Because that's what Mbalula wants. He still wants to control transport. The same way, he's deeply hurt by the police, by the way. The fact that he was removed from the Department of Police is still hurting him. He needs a psychologist. Because it's the kind that never let go of the departments because he feels entitled. That's why during the reshuffle, unprovoked, he said, we were being removed here. We once being removed here as Minister of Police. We never complained. But he was removed before as Minister of Sports. Why he's not motioning sports? Because he doesn't care about that. The most important thing that has ever happened to him was police and transport. You know, the leadership of the EFF, both in the provinces and national, have been saying to me, please, President, allow us to go for this guy. No, wait. Because they know our relationship and they're like, we are unable to go out full force because we don't want to be seen like we're undermining what you guys have. But a man who gives an instruction at 2 a.m., Arobali, ulala lawyer nare, leskancha di bas, moloi, bushew, robej, reatushiwa or yo, kadira tile. What is the problem? Mbalula said no buses. He issued this instruction. How do you do the even this one of a minister instructing the bus operators not to give buses to the EFF must be declared unconstitutional. So not only should we go to the public protector, it must go to court. That she acted unethical. And those people of the buses are not hiding it. They say so. They say, no, the minister told us, if you know what is your worth, don't give them buses. You even take your buses, you're only allowed to go to Mamelodi. So why would you take people to Pretoria? But these are the same people who have buses operating in Mamelodi on special trips, hired. They take supporters of the ANC to the same Pretoria that they were, how many days before? 3-4 days before, they took ANC supporters to Pretoria, the same guys. When they're supposed to take the EFF, they are told, no, your operating license says Mamelodi, so you can't go to Pretoria. That's abuse of power. That is an unethical conduct by incompetent minister of police, of transport, whose incompetence has been identified by the Secretary General of the ANC and put her there because he knows that he will control her and still wants to control that department. So we are not going to allow that, not on the EFF. And we really appreciate Dr. Ndlozi and the RCT of Pretoria, of Tshwane. Upon hearing it too that there won't be transport, the buses are cancelled, they had to create means in between that time and the starting point of our march. That was quality leadership, intervening in between 2 a.m. and 12, trying to find something. They managed to source 70 buses that refused to be part of this nonsense, said no, will come. And the taxis came in their numbers. Despite Santako saying, we're not getting involved, I think taxi drivers have lost my sister more than what you said whoever was operating in Tembisa lost. Because the taxis were told, normal, it's normal, go to work. Pirating alone in a taxi, beep, beep, going that way, beep, beep, coming back. Dololo, there are no people. They caused the taxi people, they caused them. Because had they said, no, there is a shutdown, stay at home, they were not going to lose anything. They were not going to lose anything. They were not going to gain money as usual, but they will not have lost money that they need disparately. Pala Pala will never end, Mwanama. Pala Pala. We are going to get to the bottom of this. This is just the beginning. Na Pala Pala will never end. That thing he did to Zuma, of taking Zuma to prison, he has set a precedent. I think he's the next president, in office or out of office, will go to prison. We'll never allow that. The DP asked a critical question, which you are all not asking. Let's say he declared the dollars, right? Let's say his business is above board. There is nothing wrong. He did everything right. Leave him alone. That's fine. But how do you answer the question that says the trading currency in South Africa is rands. How do you escape that one? It's by law, by the way. No one is allowed to trade using foreign currency. The president has agreed, the president has accepted that he has accepted dollars from a person who came to buy buffaloes using foreign currency. How do you pass that one? See? As a fate. As a fate. Even if it's not a president, leave the president things alone. If there was an individual who's found in possession of foreign currency and he's asked, where did you get the money from? And he says, I sell buffaloes. But they say, but you are not allowed to sell using foreign currency. How do we pass that one? Yes, admitted he took foreign currency. Why are you not making an issue about it? Because that is the law. He has violated the law. And he will never go past that one. He ought to have accepted that he violated the law and resigned, which he did, by the way, until Gwede and them pressurized him to stay in office against Pravin, who said, brother, you must go. Pravin, relations, no, they are no longer. That's why SARS can release a statement on that Pala person who bought the money, who bought the buffaloes. SARS was not going to do that. If the relations were still nice between Pravin and the president, SARS was not going to issue a statement that says that guy did not declare the dollars. Even if they know, as long as it's not in the best interest of Pravin, SARS will not say it. Never. So by SARS saying that guy did not declare the dollars, you don't need anyone to tell you anything. In Pravin's language, connect the dots. Why would SARS do that? Because SARS is being used, by the way, as a political weapon. Political weapon. So we shouldn't even be shocked by stories that there will be stories against the deputy president, there will be this, there will be that. I'm not surprised. Why would I be surprised? Because, I mean, we were sitting here the other day, we were told Brian Shibambo paid that debt of VBS and all of that, the matters are closed. No problem. Boom! There is now liquidation or something against Brian Shibambo. What? How do you pay? Because liquidation is not the example that you can't pay. Everything else that you have combined, including you can't meet the debt repayment. So you came to ask us here and said, where did he get the money? Which was an admission that he paid. You didn't say, why is Brian Shibambo not paying? You said to us, Brian Shibambo paid. Where did he get the money? Which was a confirmation he paid. All of a sudden, boom. Hi, hey, liquidation, hi, how? Hey, it will never end. Hi, arrest them. If they want to remove Ramaphosa because he's going to expose corruption, their corruption on VBS, and VBS is already exposed. Things were written about VBS and about us. Everything is there. Arrest us if you want. Arrest us. Why do you want to threaten us about VBS every time we speak? We can't be threatened by VBS. Renara ya chelete VBS. VBS money was eaten by the ANC. And the people who ate that money are in court. Some of them have already admitted. We have nothing to do with that. And you will never use that to silence us. Never. Look, DP, when SARS comes to you and says, we are auditing you for the past 5 years, don't be scared about that. It's their job. If you have nothing, now I've come from there myself. I'm from there. Khodiye itwan le rotse ke nna. Phonyoka ba mphethe. So I go by Chavi. So like me, DP, you must never be scared of these people. Stay firm on what you stand for. You never committed crime. If there are mistakes that you have committed, you miscalculated, pay. Pay. Make arrangements and pay. That's all. There's nothing they can do. There's nothing they can do. There is law in this country, and that law must be followed by all. So when people say DPA, now that you guys have taken a stand, are you not scared something's going to happen? Like what? Like killing us? Like imprisoning us? Like torturing us? Like sending SARS after us? We are used to that life. We are used to that. So SARS must never be seen by anyone in South Africa as a problem, even when it's being used as a tool. Don't take it to heart and say it's a problem. No, hey, Floyd, we need 1, 2, 3, 4 form. You go look for it and give them. Hey, we want this, hey, give them. They did this to me. They gave me a settlement. You were there next to me. You traveled this journey with me. Give me a settlement, signed everything and all of that. One morning woke up and said they don't recognize the settlement. I took them to court. The court said this settlement stands. Crooks. They went to settle now because when I settle with SARS, it must be final. And I must trust SARS as an honorable institution of integrity. But if it settles now and then goes around, turn around against its own settlement. My settlement was written by that guy. Van Lochenberg, the man himself. Van Lochenberg. He wrote my settlement, working with Tumi Mukwena, my lawyer, word for word. And then Van Lochenberg turns around and say, no, this settlement is not proper. I agree, he wrote it privately, that he didn't know where he was dealing with. God, no, sir. You are used to robbing people. You are the one who wrote this settlement. Word for word, you. Why do you turn around and say it's not proper? You don't write proper things, Khanwe. And they realize there's no way out. So, how do you have a SARS that operates like that? That operates like mafias who are not honorable to their own commitments. So I'm not speaking about like this because I've got no issue with SARS. Now I don't have any issue with SARS. They will never get me born. Once bitten. Yes. Twice shy, Baba. So everything I do, I make sure, even when the accountant says, no, we can work on getting this money discounted, rather double it. I don't want problems with these people. They are the quickest to be used politically against those they don't want. From the report that we got now, and I'm happy you're raising the issue of numbers, because people concentrate on Tshwane, and then they call Tshwane shut down. It was not Tshwane alone. There is no city in the whole of South Africa, even the smallest town, which did not have a protest. All of them. And I think the former TG led one of the biggest in Captain Park. A very few people know that there was actually a huge protest in Captain Park that was led by former TG. And the deputy president led one from Alex. He took a very horrible decision. He marched from Alex, went to the mall, and then went to Megawatt. And I said to him, while I was relaxing, I sent a message, I said, proof of life, I'm done. And then he says, I think I'm going to arrive at 7:30. And I'm like, 7:30. So yesterday he tells me that no, he did that thing of, what do you call it? Checking the distance. No, the walking one. He checked the distance, and that thing told him 7:30. I said, at some point I was tempted to check how far is that place we are going to, but I decided, no, I don't want to see it. Let me just walk there. And the DSG led in Kimberley, the SG led in eThekwini, National Chair in Cape Town, the TG, was it Witbank or Witbank? Just us alone. And then the rest of our people, all of them, each one of them had a leader in the whole of South Africa, from Musina to Cape Town. Not a single town did not have protest. And then in all the towns, 1 or 2, 3, 4, 10, in total, how many SG? 307 people were arrested in the whole of South Africa. Today we are sitting at 230 that we managed successfully to release from prison. You know, the ones who are arrested in my township, this morning they went to court. There were 5 or 6 of them. And then the magistrate said to them, what is this? What type of a docket is this? Not in court. In the office of the magistrate said, no, I can't listen to this. And then they left. So, they slept inside police holding cells. How do we get recourse for them? Where people just get arrested for doing nothing. Yoli, our member of parliament, they are done, she's walking like there's no problem. They identify her and arrest her and release her the same night. What trauma does it do to that female comrade who was just going to be part of a peaceful protest and then walking away to their respective places? So Yoli is a member of the Central Command team and a member of parliament who was leading in Pechefstin in KZN, just to demonstrate to you who was where. There is no smallest town that did not have a protest. And we said to our people, whether you're 5, whether you're 2, just stand there and raise your voice and let it be heard. And we are happy that we are accounting for not less than 150,000 participants in this campaign. That we could account for, that we could transport from our own transport, because what we said was the number that you are giving us as part of the report must speak to the mode of transport you used, its capacity, and all of that. And the proof of payments for such transport then speak to each other to demonstrate how many can we account for. So we transported 150,000 of them. We're not accounting for those who came on their own without being transported by the EFF. Because in Tshwane, when we walked, we went to Sunnyside. People were coming out of their flats and apartments, joining the march in their numbers. We're very grateful for that, and we're very humbled by what the masses of our people have really done on that day. Their names will go down in history as people who overcome the terror and intimidation of the state and said, we don't care, we're dead already. You can kill us officially. We're going to raise our voices and we're going to raise our concerns about the president and the load shedding. We're fighting to win for elections. Numbers don't lie. That's why the DA is extremely threatened by the EFF, because they know that the party of voice, the reasonable party, the party of voice, the voice of the voiceless masses is the EFF. The rejected, the dejected masses of our people is the EFF. It goes without saying. Everybody now says, we've now found an alternative. I received an email this morning from a staunch member who said, of the ANC, who said, I left the ANC. I didn't join any other political party because I had given up on these political parties. But what happened on the 20th made me realize that there is now a party to vote for. I've not yet decided to join, but I now know which party to vote for. This is what the EFF has done, reawaken those who are suffering from political apathy. Those who are saying we can't find a C alternative are today saying this is the home of the homeless people of South Africa, of the unemployed graduate, of the ill-treated black African professionals in the financial institutions, particularly in the banks, the professionals who are paid less than their white colleagues, yet performing the same duties. So we are very happy that the people of South Africa are beginning to say, this is where we're going. And that's where we want them, because that is the right direction. Whether there will be a coalition or not, no one goes into a marathon to become number 2. I've never heard Caster Semenya, Arbuti, Reasepila Sokiti Mageta Lewela number 2. Every time she leaves home, I know her personally. I know, even when I've never run any marathon, but I know the world champion, Caster Semenya. Atamaya every day. Or Resailogia medal, wa gold, reabua. We are going to make you proud. South Africa will make you proud in 2024 by voting for the EFF, because it's the only viable alternative. The rest are the flat spare tires. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President. That concludes our press conference. We're adjourned.
Thank you.